Welcome board members and manager to today's board meeting. My name is Brian Ndai, I'm the board chair. I'd like to go over some virtual meeting regulations required by law. Board members attending any board meeting remotely must be visible to the public to be considered present to meet quorum guidelines, so please take a moment to turn your cameras on. Board members participating remotely must also disclose their location and anyone present at their location during roll call. The public is allowed to attend the Board of Water Supply board meeting at the BWS Public Service Building located here at 630 South Beretania Street, Honolulu, Hawaii 96843. Via interactive conference technology, masks are not required to be worn. At this time, I'd like to take a roll call of board members. Please say aye when I call your name and make the appropriate disclosures if you are participating remotely. Let's see here. Board member Ray Soon.
Here, in the boardroom.
Thank you. Board member Max Soy. Board member Naalehu Anthony.
Aloha, present, and I'm at home and I'm alone. Thank you.
Thank you. Board member Jade Bhutan. And board member Don Sepchek.
I here in my office by myself.
Thank you. All right, I believe we have 4 present and we do have 4. All right, thank you. Those of you who are calling in or video conferencing in, please mute your microphone when you're not speaking. If you should have a question, comment, or wish to enter a motion or second a motion on an item, or if you want to applaud something or anything like that, please unmute your microphone and identify yourself before continuing to speak. If you encounter technical issues during today's meeting, please use the WebEx chat to send a direct message to our support team. Your names are listed in a message to all WebEx participants. To open the chat window, please click or tap on the text bubble icon on the right side of the WebEx toolbar. Also in the room with us are Manager Ernest Lau, Board Secretary Joy Cruz Achu, and Information Specialist Stephen Nordstrom. Joining on WebEx to monitor in-person public testimony is Information Specialist Keone Matos from our Communications Office. And also joining us by WebEx are Jeff Lau and Jessica Wong, both from the City and County Corporation Counsel Department. All right, testimony can be submitted. The deadlines for written testimony, mail testimony, and online testimony has passed. However, testifiers can still call in and they will be accepted up until the time of the agenda item. The number to call is 808-748-6040. Callers will be placed in a queue and brought up to testify one at a time. Please listen for further instructions when you call in. In-person testimony will be accepted during the meeting in the boardroom at 630 South Beretania Street. The testifiers should check in at the lobby of the Public Service Building and they will be brought into the boardroom to present their testimony. Okay, and we ask all testifiers to please limit their testimony to 2 minutes. Meeting materials or the board packet as defined under HRS section 92-7.5 are accessible at www.boardofwatersupply.com/boardmeetings. This meeting is also viewable via live streaming on our website, www.boardofwatersupply.com/live spelled out. The video player will appear on your screen. You may have to click the arrow on the video to start it. You also may have to unmute the audio, as muted audio tends to be the default setting. We have 7 items on agenda requiring board action today. Item number one, we are gonna be taking, matters out of order today. The first matter I'd like to take out of order is, item for information number one. That's the update on the Board of Water Supply's response to the potential impacts of the Red Hill fuel contamination. Chair recognizes, Manager Lau and his team.
Thank you, Chair and board members. Today, we just wanted to provide one report. Can I have Erwin Kawata, head of our Water Quality Division, provide an update on some of the recent test results from a monitor or test well in Mauna Loa Valley. Erwin, if you could proceed with your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lau. Good afternoon, Chair and members. I'd like to report on some chemicals that we detected in one of our monitoring wells in Mauna Loa Valley called DH43. Those chemicals are called polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, or PAHs. They occur naturally in petroleum products, and 2015 was the last time we actually did this testing and found no detections at that time. The monitor well is located about a third of a mile to the southeast of the Red Hill facility, denoted on this map here with the red arrow. And to the south, our closest production well is our Mauna Loa well. It's about a little over a mile to the south of DH43. These are the test results of 5 samples that were collected from the monitor well. What we did was at each point we purged the well. In other words, we pumped water out of the well at different volumes and collected samples after each of the different purges were performed. And you can see here a number of different kinds of pHs were detected in all of the samples. Now, as you look down the row here, as you go across the table, the amounts present are very low, but they are for the most part in pretty good agreement as you go across the table. Now, there are 16 of these PAHs that are on EPA's priority pollutant list, or chemicals of concern to EPA. Of those, there are 7 of them noted here by an asterisk that are known carcinogens. We also took a look at what we saw in DH43 and compared them to Red Hill monitor wells that were also tested approximately the same time period for similar kinds of compounds. And as we did the comparison, you go across the table, you see, generally speaking, pretty good agreement in both the types of PAHs that were detected and the levels that were found. This is what the monitor looks like out in the field. It is 273 feet deep below the ground surface, and all the water samples were collected in the open hole at the very bottom of the monitor well. So as we pump water out of this monitor well, new water from the aquifer actually fills this area, and these were the samples that are collected. So all the samples that are collected really reflect what is coming from the aquifer itself. These are the 16 PAHs that are on EPA's, again, priority pollutant list. They are, again, naturally occurring in petroleum products and actually occur as a mixture of different types. As you can see, these are the actual chemical structures, but from these structures, you can see they are very rigid and really don't do well or decompose very easily in the environment. They also form when you actually burn, garbage and other kinds of petroleum products. They are formed when you actually cook meats and other foods, and they are present in cigarette smoke. So what do these results tell us? Well, we had a conversation with the Department of Health and EPA about these results, and they are looking at these numbers. But just on the surface, these numbers seem to indicate that we're seeing some petroleum contamination that's occurring outside of the Red Hill property, and that groundwater could be potentially flowing towards Mauna Loa Valley from Red Hill. Now, this is contrary to current understanding. Current understanding is that groundwater moves away from the valley from the east to the west direction, away from Mauna Loa Valley. These results suggest that the opposite could be happening. The actual levels, again, that we found are very low, but they are consistent with similar PAHs and levels that were observed in the Navy's monitoring wells on their own property. These Contaminants, again, were being detected deeper within the aquifer formation, and they are very persistent and don't readily decompose. Individually, the levels are very low and not expected to pose a significant concern at this point. However, further study and testing is needed to watch for any changes in the amounts that's being detected. Going forward, the Red Hill tanks need to be defueled because the condition as it stands poses an imminent threat to the aquifer. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions that you might have.
Members, any questions?
If nobody else has, I have a couple for Erwin.
Go
Sure.
ahead, Anthony.
Hey, Erwin, thanks so much for this information, and we've been able to talk a little bit about it. We saw it in the news as well. Can you just can you talk a little bit more about the correlation to what was found at the test site at Red Hill at the initial spill in November and December, and whether or not they were looking for PAH at that site, and if there's any kind of, and I know this is very early data, but any kind of beginning to investigate whether or not there's a correlation between the well site 43 and Red Hill.
Sure. Let me go to this picture. Oops. Oops. What's happening here? Okay. Let's try this map. Okay. Let me, first of all, here again, the location of DH-43. And what we actually did was took a look at what was being detected in the Navy's monitoring well for those wells that are closest to DH-43. And again, as we looked at the differences between what was observed in DH-43, again, compared to the Navy's monitoring wells, we see some good similarity between, again, the types and the amounts that were detected. Now, PAHs occur naturally in petroleum, so all this data really strongly suggests that there is some correlation between what is observed here in the Navy's property and again what's observed in DH-43. Albeit, there is some questions still remain with respect to how did it get there based on current understanding of groundwater flow direction, that it's actually going away from Honolulu Valley from the east to the west direction. If that would be true, then there shouldn't be any kind of contamination flowing towards Honolulu Valley. Everything should be traveling to the west. And that is one of the reasons why much of the focus and attention by the regulatory agencies and the Navy currently is on the western side or the northwest side of the Red Hill facility located here. However, it is still a detection that repeated samples confirm its presence. So it poses some interesting questions and more study is needed.
And if you could you just refresh us as to how often you're going to be testing the well sites that we have access to in the area?
We'll be testing them once every 3 months. We just collected our sample for August, and we'll continue to do that and watch for any kind of trends.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, members, any further questions? I have one.
Okay.
So Ernie, there are established safety standards, right, that are established either by state law or otherwise in terms of whether the water is safe to drink.
Yeah, this is at a test well, not a drinking water well. So this is a monitor well. It's 2 inches in diameter. It's not used as a drinking water source. But the Department of Health and EPA have some standards for these types of chemicals, but not all of them.
Okay. And the agencies are aware of these findings. The Department of Health as well as EPA.
Yeah, we briefed the Department of Health and the EPA on these findings and shared copies of the results with both parties.
Okay, great. So at this time, water remains safe to consume.
Yes,
Okay,
from the Board of Waters.
thank you. All right, I do believe we have a testifier today on this on this matter. And she is here, I believe,
Here.
in the boardroom. Her name is Susan Popola Davis. Please,
Hi, good afternoon.
afternoon.
I smile when I come here because you're the most peaceful bunch that I've ever been in front of. You're very receptive. And I try, oh, first of all, let me get some of my nice clean water from my house
On the board of water supply system.
that I don't have to worry about. I don't have to filter. I can take a bath. I can wash my dishes, wash my hair. I can feed my cats with water. Nobody's dying, nobody's getting any itching, unlike others. But just for me to make a comment on Mr. Quata's presentation on Honolulu Valley and the PAHs, where there's 16 on the EPA list, priority list. And they were detected in DH 43. And he also says that they're going to be testing every 3 months. But one of the questions that I don't know the answer to, were the PAHs detected on DH 43 before this time? So was it clean and now we've got this? That's my question, you don't have to answer.
Actually, Erwin, maybe you can respond
Sure.
to this question.
Yes, it was tested in 2015 in response to the Tank 5 leak, and there were no detections at that time. From that time until the present, there were no tests done because of the understanding that groundwater moved, from the east to the west. However, after the Joint Base Pearl Harbor contamination and the size of that contamination, I decided to collect a sample in early of this year, in March of this year, and we saw some total petroleum hydrocarbon detections. So I took another sample in April, and this time I analyzed for PAHs. And the results that I report today are the results of the samples collected in May, confirming their presence.
I'm sorry, I'm a data freak, but why wouldn't you go back next month and see if those have raised? Not telling you how to do your job, please.
It's okay.
It's just for me, and I don't really want you to have to answer questions from the public. More came here to make a few statements.
Go ahead.
Okay. On April 20th, the Department of Health issued a revised document on drinking water action levels for TPH related to the release of JP5. And they referenced using US EPA 2021, which was dated as of November 21. And for that makes a point for me because that's the month that this happened. So they do some kind of mathematical, whatever they do, and they say there's only marginal changes. Well, the change is now 266 parts per billion. They're going to accept that, okay? There's still going to be schools, restaurants, businesses, the Navy Exchange, Salt Lake Shopping Center, child development centers, and the Department of Health is going to allow 266 parts per billion. I watched these meetings and I did not see anybody from the Board of Water Supply on the Commission for Safe Water Management. Am I wrong?
I think you're referring to the Commission of Water Resource Management.
Yeah.
We weren't able to attend the last meeting.
Okay, but you do have a seat at the table? Or are you a visitor?
We don't have a seat at the table. To serve on the Water Commission, the Department of Health has a seat on the table. But but not the Board of Water Supply. And when we're on the agenda, we have to appear before the commission.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't have a
We're-
commissioner tag where you can help with the decision making?
No, we're actually regulated by that committee.
Yeah, I figured that out. Okay, so I sent you, I don't know if your secretary gave it to you, a transcript of that meeting last week, Monday.
Yeah, yes, thank you. You must have spent a lot of effort.
I do.
to transcribe it.
Yes, okay. Inside, they're talking about bringing back the Red Hill Shaft. I didn't make copies because I know he's gonna give it to you all.
Oh, and I have one copy.
Okay, so, they reference bringing up the Red Hill Shaft, and then I took pictures of how I don't know if you've been out there to see how the blue things are going into Wyaba Stream. And of course, I don't know where all of those things are coming from. But, I'm gonna talk about some of the things that were inside that meeting. The Navy, Sullivan, I do not give him deference for commander. Sullivan says that they're installing monitors to make sure that if any hotspots are identified, we know where we can continue to evaluate. But nobody on the commission asks, have you found any hotspots? And can we have the data for your monitoring so we can see for ourselves? Admiral Killian this is page 3. Admiral Killian has formally requested from the Board of Water Supply information about any of their monitoring wells that they might have in the vicinity of Red Hill. Because they want information from you, but there's no reciprocation. They've been asked by certain stakeholders to minimize or adapt the permit. It's an amendment to allow the continuing of 500 million gallons into Wyaba Stream. He also said that they're utilizing this monitoring for any hotspots so that we know where to continue to look at the subsurface to identify any contaminant that might be there and remove it. They haven't been able to remove a lot, so finding something, it's not like you're finding an Easter egg and you pick it up and you can remove it. This is a much more complicated. They say that they're continuing to include, in fact, had a discussion with the Department of Health a couple of weeks ago about any possible ways to use the non-potable water for irrigation of some of our golf courses and so forth. Their answer to their own question was, unfortunately, the infrastructure is not in place right now, and it would take a long time to get in place. So there was no reason to have any kind of discussion with the Department of Health, which probably did not happen because they already had the answer. That's typical of the Navy. Sorry, I worked for them. Suzanne asked the commander if he characterized as getting a Red Hill Shaft back to drinking water quality. He did, but I think it's broader than that from our perspective, which is restoring the health of the aquifer, because you could clean up water and then filter it from the Red Hill Shaft. We need to make sure there's no contamination in the aquifer that is spreading elsewhere. So I see them being very conscious of being on the right track. Now, there's these meetings that Sullivan speaks of where the commission and discussions, and it's outside of a public hearing. So they're saying things are going good and they've had good discussion, but I mean, I could say I had good discussion here. I don't know. But as part of it, Deputy Emanuel said, we were made aware that there was a leak found on the system that they're working on fixing, and that could be related to the overpumping that we've seen or could help to reduce waste of some leakage in the system. So public hearing leak, the first thing, we're not going to say, well, is it a water leak or is it a fuel leak? The first thing that's going to go to our mind is fuel, regardless, because they're not explaining it. And I also think they forgot the public was listening.
Sorry.
Ryan Imata makes mention of it. He says, the other reason why we wanted to bring it back to you next month too, is I think we're going to get a better idea after that leak is fixed. Commissioner Buck says, okay, the news about the leak is disturbing. Again, we always find out after the fact. It seems like we find out about these things after the fact, and it's somewhat disturbing. So you can, I mean, he has a way of talking to make it sound really nice that he was disturbed, but he's not. Facial stuff tells. So they're talking about reopening Red Hill, which is kind of surprising. And Kagawa Viviani asks, what are the metrics for returning the Red Hill shaft to a source of water, to drinking water quality? What are the contaminants that could be tracked? Now, I'm not going to read it all, but one of her main points was, how do you think the public is going to accept that water? If they get it, you know, if they say they fix everything and they get it pumping again and whatever, these people aren't drinking the water right now. They've got Menehune water supply bringing their water, bottled water. I don't know if you've heard of a camp shower, but it's a shower and you wash yourselves with bottled water, only the gallon ones that you can get from Safeway. They're taking a lot of, they're doing a lot of ways in order to not have to touch the water. And when they do, if they've just asked, oh, I'm gonna wash the dish, and then all of a sudden they've got rashes on their arms. They're still smelling the fumes, but I can think that, you know, after a while, if you're living in a house that you're smelling fumes initially, by the time it's about a week on, you're not gonna smell it anymore because your whole body has gotten used to that smell already. It's just part of your living experience. So Cito says, I know people don't like to hear this, but there are other aquifers that have pollutants in them which have been treated to become drinking water sources. No examples given.
Sorry to interrupt you.
3
Can you
minutes.
summarize, please?
Okay, so summary is the 266 parts per billion. She actually says in the testimony, it should be 0. I've said that here before, and you know, my example is this. I can drink this water, which I'm really thirsty right now. I don't have to worry about it. I want everybody on the island not to worry about it, not you guys. You know, because everybody's worried that it's gonna start spreading further because we're not actively either paying attention to what the Navy is doing, or in my opinion, the Board of Water Supply isn't given a seat at the table at every meeting. Even if you don't get to make decisions, you still get to say something. And that's why I appreciate you guys. And you guys are doing a great job. Thank you, Bernie,
Thank you, Miss-
everybody here.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Picola Davis. We really appreciate your time.
Yeah, I'll stay on it.
Yeah.
You'll get more.
Thanks,
Thank
Susan.
you. All right,
You know,
thank you, everybody.
Ernie, there was a site. Hey, can you bring back the map up?
Erwin, can you
Erwin?
bring the map? Oh, and Stephen, are we getting any phone calls from the public or?
Oh, you would have to check through your phone because it's not connected.
Oh, okay.
If you do it, it'll just ring on your phone.
Oh, okay.
Erwin, site looks like S. That's a well, right?
Site S is the location of our new monitoring well. It's at the Honolulu Golf Course.
Are you already taking samples from there or?
No,
No.
we're just getting landowner approval and we'll be doing the design and construction later on, hopefully next year, early next year.
So we have nothing southeast of the tanks.
No, the only well that monitor well we have is here at Site J.
No.
Here, it's okay. Okay, and we don't, you haven't found any samples that are reflecting what you found at DH 43?
No.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Hello?
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay,
Any
can you hold on?
further
I'm
questions?
doing things from a cell phone, so hold on.
I do believe we have some public testimony that's coming in right now through via telephone, so.
Yes, we do, Chair. Ma'am, can you identify yourself and then go ahead with your testimony?
Sure. Thank you, Ernie. I feel like I'm talking to someone famous.
Thank you.
Hi. My name is Meredith Wilson. I lived in Junkiesville, Harbor Hickam for 5 years. And at the very last part of it was not very great, but I loved the first 4 years. But I was affected by it medically, and I'm now on the mainland because we PCS to the mainland, and now I'm trying to figure out what happened to us. Instead of watching Netflix at the end of my night, I now read fun things like EPA inspection reports and learn about total petroleum hydrocarbons. So sadly, this has upended my life. But first of all, I just want to echo what Susan said earlier. For some reason, I have to find out via months later about the TPH EAL being raised. Just by random hearsay. I'm not really sure why the public wasn't known that the EAL changed months later after the fact. I don't know how you guys were notified or how you're officially notified. I would love to know that of you guys if you're able to share that. But I do think that it is a shame that it keeps going up instead of down. We were already upset that it was at 211 instead of less, and now it just continues to rise. And the fact that we find out via just, random things online instead of a public announcement or any other way is just kind of disheartening. Something I do want to bring up is that EPA inspection report. I hope that you all have taken a look at it. Something yet again that just shows up on the internet. Something that shows up on the EPA website and it's not necessarily put out in a press release. It is something that took place that was investigated back in April, and I think it was provided to the Navy back in May, if I'm not mistaken, and was not posted or at least written about until last week. I saw it in Civil Beat, and they talked about the public water system that JVPHH runs, as well as AMR, and they reviewed the 1994 contract of the emergency connections that they share with you guys with the public, with the Board of Water Supply. And I don't believe that is the most current and updated contract. Do you have the most updated contract? And if you do have that, can you please send that to the Navy and the EPA because the Navy does not have it. Do you have that?
Thank you,
Yeah.
Meredith. Go ahead, Chair.
Ma'am, just a friendly reminder, please summarize. We're trying to limit testifiers to 2 minutes. Manager Lau has been taking notes, and I know that if there are things that we can provide information on to you, we will follow up.
Sure. Couple last things, just in general, because the Navy does not have their own board meetings, and you do. So thank you for giving the public an opportunity to speak. So I just appreciate that you do that. So just know that we like that you give us an opportunity to just have a moment to say something, because that's really just what people need, is an opportunity to feel like they're heard and respected. The fact that the JVPHA Public Water Supply has no formal leak detection program, no specific instructions for operators on replenishing chlorine and fluoride, and we're only given verbal instructions of when and how to do that. No labeling on pipes for potable water when they're directly across the tunnel of JP5 fuel. Sounds pretty problematic. I just hope that since the Navy and BWS both fall under the EPA, to be enforced to follow the Safe Drinking Water Act and Hawaii Department of Health regulations. I think you guys do a great job, at least from the outside. I don't know how things look behind the doors, but I think you guys do a great job, and I think they could learn a lot from you. Maybe you can cross-train. I think that's a great way to earn back that public trust that they so want to get from us. But maybe there's some way that they can do that, and I just hope that there's some way that because reading that report really just disheartened me, because I lived there for 5 years, and to learn that they didn't know how to put chlorine and fluoride in the water properly really hurt. So I think that they have a lot to learn from you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, can we just have your name for the record? Your first and last name?
Sure, it's Meredith Wilson.
Wilson.
Thank
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. We really appreciate the time.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Chair, thank you, Meredith. Take care. We have more calls coming in.
Yeah.
Hello. Hi, this is the Board of Water Supply Board meeting. Would you like to provide some testimony? Please identify yourself with your first and last name, and then I think the chair says you have about 2 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Ernie Lau. Hi, Chair. My name is Jamie Simic. First, I would ask for you guys to bear patience with me. My family and I were in a severe car accident 2 days ago, but I wanted to make sure to attend this meeting and to hear what you had to say, since all ears were listening the last time I spoke with you. And I would like to thank you for looking into what you looked into and confirming that, yes, there is contamination that has moved further than what the military is admitting to. The things I would like for you to look into now is, first, there's a lot of residents in the past week that have been sending me videos of chlorine-smelling water, blue water, the foul egg odor, as well as rashes, chemical burns. They've been sending me and headaches, along with a long laundry list with symptoms, and videos and pictures as well as the contamination. I offered my phone number last time or my email address to open the door to send you guys this information. I do post it on my social media if you would like to see it. Next is how are we allowing the Navy to reopen a well, or even talk about opening a well that we know is contaminated when we're already losing 5 million gallons of water and people are still reporting contamination, and it's not being validated by them. It's being validated by not even being validated at their doctors. Third, recently the Navy just posted a lab for the schools regarding the lead in the water. My children's school, Mokulele Elementary, which I had to remove them from for continuously being sick and not getting an education, they have removed all of those labs, and none of them are posted. How are parents supposed to feel safe sending these kids to the schools if we can't get the results from the water testing, let alone from any other contaminants that are admitted to being in the water? We're not allowed to know what those levels are. And secondly, is there any more movement on declaring a national emergency in order to get help, not just for the military, but the people of the island? I still get videos from across the island in different locations. Thirdly, I would like to give you guys an update and confirm that the symptoms are not fleeting. I was just discharged 3 days before my accident. 5 days ago, I was discharged from San Memorial Hospital. I have been diagnosed with chronic hydrocarbon toxicity exposure. I was in a severe relapse. The symptoms come in waves, just like the cycles of the contamination. I am not the only one that is sick. I have been blocked for 9 months and getting any care. People are being blocked on the island from getting any care. We, as I asked last time, we need somebody to stand shoulder to shoulder with us and keep advocating for us and looking and helping to bring help to the island. I thank you for looking into everything that you looked into before. I appreciate every single one of you guys and so many others do. I'm just trying to spread the truth and aloha and make sure nobody walks the path that my family and I have been on.
Thank you, Jamie. Jamie, would you please spell your last name for the record?
It's Simic, SIMIC.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Simic. Thank you for your time today. We did make note of everything that you have testified on. If there is an opportunity for our staff, if there is anything we can, get back to you, if, we will do that if we're able to.
Thank you, Jamie.
Please do. I welcome it. Thank you, Ernie.
You-
Thank you to all of you. Mahalo.
Wish you and your family the best. Thank you.
Thank you. God bless.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I think what I'd like to suggest is, I know that you had several calls already, maybe, you might want to take the numbers down. I'll pass this on the agenda, and then if we can, maybe get a hold of them, and then we can make some time where they can, testify, so that they're not, disenfranchised. So just maybe take the numbers on. And
Yeah, we'll have to
Get back to
work
that.
with our IT because I only have a 7485,000 number since it's coming through our system.
Oh,
Yeah, we'll have to see if we can backtrack on the caller ID. And then,
Okay.
Chair, if we can, we'll reach back to everybody that tried to call. I have about, looks like maybe 12 plus calls that came in during that short period of time.
okay, let's note that for the record, and as much as we are able to, we will get back to everyone and try to provide you an opportunity to testify.
Do you want me to answer the phone calls when they ring in?
Yeah, maybe that might be just in case, since it's forwarded to my cell phone. Everybody on WebEx or on Vimeo, our apologies. We're having technical difficulties, technical problems with our telephone system in the room. So we've gone to use of a cell phone to try to do this. And I'm not the best operator on the cell phone, but we'll try to give everybody opportunity to provide their their testimony. Thank you for your patience.
All right, thank you. For the record, please note that we will try to, as much as possible, get back to the callers and provide them an opportunity to testify.
Mr. Chair, if I could, if this was about a main break or something less serious, I would say, let's log the calls and have them come back. I would say though that these testimonies are all coming in around the same sentiment and with the level of care and concern that is needed. I would offer that, maybe just this one time, especially because the telephone is down, we may want to offer the WebEx call-in line so that we can do it through WebEx, because then it'll pipe through, my understanding, through WebEx as well as the Facebook Live as an alternative. I know that we normally wouldn't do that and open that to the public, but this is pretty serious stuff. And Ernie, if you missed a dozen calls, then all that means to me is that, one, we are the trusted source. I mean, recognizing that we are not responsible for the Navy's water system, I think people do want to get on the record no matter what. And two, they are citizens, they are residents here, and we want to make sure that we hear them as we go.
Chair,
I would be okay with that. I mean, I'm not aware of all the options that we have.
what is the WebEx number? We're working on it, not liquid. In the meantime, could I make maybe a suggestion to the board, because I think this came up from some of the testifiers that at least got through, is questions about the Department of Health, how they set their emergency action levels, EALs, like for TBH. I think Susan mentioned 266 parts per billion. At one time, it was as high as 400 parts per billion. Originally, it was at there was a taste and odor level of 100 parts per billion, which we actually suggested using the lower level just to be more cautious. We could make send a request to the Department of Health, maybe at the next month's board meeting, to come and share the basis for their EALs. There is one of their scientists in the Hazard Evaluation and Emergency Response Division here, Dr. Roger Brewer, would be the best person to come in and share his rationale and basis for the changes to the EAL that I think might be helpful for you folks, the board members, and also for our community to understand. There is a lot of confusion going on right now.
Yeah, if I could add to the list as well, Ernie, sorry to interrupt you guys. I think we also need to hear from Erwin with respect to this and how he's approaching testing as to be the sentinel, if you will, in looking for some of these contaminants versus what perspective the Navy and Maybe Seaworm has with respect to how they're searching for these, because I think they're at opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of perspective.
Yeah, there's differences in approach here. So if the board is open to that, I can send a letter requesting they appear in next month's board meeting.
I think this is a continuing agenda item, so I think if it's appropriate, then we can add them as part of this agenda item. And we can also keep the testimony coming through as well.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, we do have a caller on the line. So let's.
Thank you. Please go ahead. Please say your first and last name, and go ahead. I think you have about 2 minutes. Go ahead, please.
Hi, my name is Kelly Morris.
Can you please spell your last name? Can you please spell your last name?
R-R-I-S.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. Yes, thank you for hearing me. I just wanted to give a brief summary to say I appreciate everything that the Board of Water Supply is doing and for allowing us to speak and be heard. I had to leave Hawaii and move to the mainland because as a civilian, not military personnel, I was getting no help from the Navy whatsoever or from my landlord, Capital Beach Homes. And I had hoped that once we moved away that our medical issues would go away as well, but that is not the case. We have had multiple problems. My daughter has neurological problems. She gets muscle twitching, and it comes on without warning, and it goes away without warning. Her last episode lasted 3 days. On top of that, she also gets severe, excruciating joint pain where she can't even get out of bed. And that hasn't gone away either. Just recently, I had to have a breast biopsy because they found a 5-centimeter lesion in my breast that was not there before. I have had a UTI for months since I left the island that has not gone away, and I'm on my 3rd round of antibiotics. I've lost over 50 pounds because I cannot eat. Food gets stuck in my throat, and after almost every meal, I have to fight from throwing up. So I wanted to share these experiences with you because I want you guys to understand that we're having ongoing medical problems even after leaving the island. The Navy's not being transparent with us. The Department of Health isn't. I mean, they just raised the acceptable level. So I wanted to testify and let you guys know, because you're the ones that hear us, that something has got to be done. not just for the people on island, but for the people that have also left. We need medical help. And if it's spreading, it's only going to get worse, and the Navy needs to step up. So I just wanted to share that with you, and thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Ms. Morris, especially for, sharing your journey with us. And if there is any further follow-up that we can offer, we will contact you. But thank you very much for your time today. Best wishes to you and your family.
Great, thank you.
Okay, do we have any more callers at this time?
I don't see any more
Are
right
we-
now.
Is anybody objecting if we pass this on the agenda, leave it open? Maybe we can get a string of callers lined up and have them testify, but in the meantime, can we please move on to another item? Unless there was something else we wanted to put in.
You were gonna, look at getting the Department of Health to come in and talk about their standards and why they established the standards where they do.
Right.
I guess I would really love a conversation about Juliana, whose responsibility is in where. I mean, I feel for every one of these testifiers who testified. I would not want my family going through that. And I do feel for them. But we're not the Navy. And they're not saying we're the Navy. They appreciate our listening. But at some point, there's only so much listening we can do. We need to be able to help move them to somebody who can make decisions that affect them. Whether it's the congressional delegation, I don't know. But I don't think we can be the depository of these stories. We have to find the right people that and move them along. And we have to continue to be diligent in our responsibility on those things that are ours. And on that one score, I would like to ask the question that Suzanne asked, somewhat facetiously, but I think it was a good question. Does it make sense for us to be testing more often than once every 3 months? Since that's the only well we have on that side. It is a sentinel well, as Nalegu suggested, because we have no until we have another way of testing water on that side of the complex. Doesn't make sense for us to step in. But if Irwin is going to say, well, the water content won't change that dramatically in a month's period, and it's economic and it makes sense for us to do it as that's great. But I am asking the question, why not sooner?
Yeah, Erwin, you want to go ahead and try to answer that question from board member
Sure.
Sue?
Sure. Number one, the once every 3 months is standard best practice with respect to initial monitoring. It doesn't necessarily preclude us to do something more often. We certainly can do something more often. The part about levels in the environment not changing as rapidly, that's typically true of most environmental monitoring. Having said that, yes, we can collect samples once a month as well as once every 3 months. It's just a matter of collecting them, sending them to the laboratory, and getting processed.
One thing it does take, and Erwin, you can speak to this. I just want to commend Erwin's efforts through the years on this red bill issue, because on this particular test method for PAH, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons,
Right.
we really worked hard with the laboratories to drive the sensitivity, increase the sensitivity to be able to detect it at even lower levels than what normal tests would be done. So maybe, but it does take, being that it's testing for such low levels, the time it takes to get a result back is quite long. Erwin, maybe you can explain what
Sure.
you did.
Yeah, so what we did was we actually enhanced the method to see much lower levels than most laboratory methods can see, anywhere from 10 to 50 times lower. The trade-off is the length of the test. Because of the almost near ultra clean room conditions we have to have, it requires much more quality control between each of the different steps in the testing to make sure that the final test result is valid. So the trade-off is the analytical method takes anywhere from 8 to 10 weeks to process. That is not uncommon with ultra low level types of analytical testing. Yeah, we're
And
not
the-
doing residual chlorine, anything like that. We're looking for very, very small in the nanograms per liter range. And it gives us the ability to see things very early, but the trade-off again is that it's much more extensive, requires a lot more work to make sure that the final result is valid.
And the other part, Ray, this monitor well, which was installed in 1945 in Mauna Loa Valley, before they built all those homes in the valley, it now resides in somebody's yard. So we're going into a homeowner's property, and there's a lot of effort to try to purge the well and draw the sample, and it's located on a slope in the person's yard. So we're trying to be also respectful of the homeowner. So we'll take a look and see if we can move it from every 3 months, maybe to monthly, and see. As what we want to do is still have a good working relationship with that homeowner.
Sure. No, I understand. I will take your advice as to how often we should be doing this, given all the circumstances. But if it does serve as a sentinel well,
Actually, Aaron, if you go back to your map on we actually have other locations that we're looking at in Mauna Loa Valley for new test wells.
correct. But they're a ways away.
They're a year to 2 years
Yes, yeah. So we were discussing site S, and I think you were.
at the golf course.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
okay, thanks. Thank you.
Okay, are we ready to move to the next agenda item?
Yeah. That's a pleasure of the board.
Okay, we're gonna pass this for now in case there's further testimony. Let's go to item number 1 requiring board action. First is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting held on July 25th, 2022. Can I entertain a motion to approve?
I so move.
Thank you.
A second, Mr. Chair, Sna'alahu.
All right, thank you. Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion, any questions, amendments?
Done.
Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Oh,
Aye.
thank you, thank you. Chair recognizes the presence of member Lutai.
Yeah, I think Chair Jade joined at around 2:20 p.m.
Okay, let the record so reflect. Any opposed? Okay, I think we have unanimous consent. The motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting held on July 25th, 2022 is approved. All right, moving on to adoption of resolution number 945, 2022. This is for the 2022 Manager of the Year. And as we just heard him present, this year we are happy to announce Mr. Erwin Kawata as our 2022 Manager of the Year. Have a big round of applause. Before we have Mr. Kawata come in, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve this resolution.
Moved. So moved.
Thank you. Member Sepchak. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by member
Ray
Smith.
Soon.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. Okay, it's unanimous. Resolution number 945/2022 naming Mr. Erwin Kawata as the 2022 Manager of the Year is approved. Mr. Kawata, Ernie, Erwin, please join us in the boardroom. Thank you, congratulations, very well deserved. Thank you. Yeah, very much.
Thank you very much. Chair, this is the
Resolution. Yeah.
Can we take a quick picture?
You gotta take it from here.
We can, yeah, why don't we just? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you.
Good job, Erwin.
Yeah, on behalf of the entire board. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Well, no,
Very well done.
you can stay for a moment. I just wanted, the chair, if you could indulge me in a few words.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Chair. Erwin, you can stand close to the table so everybody can see you. You don't have to be shy. But the board members and the community, you know, Mr. Erwin Kawata is a very humble public servant that's committed to keeping our drinking water safe for the community. And he's worked in this job for now 40 years. His career here at the Board of Water Supply in the area of water quality, running hundreds of thousands of tests over the years on our drinking water. And on the Red Hill issue, Vern was right there next to me from the very beginning, from January of 2014. And a lot of where we're at today is because of Erwin's leadership and dedication. Coming in early to conference call with the experts on the mainland, reading thousands of documents and looking at reams and reams of data and be able to interpret it, developing the strategy that we've taken to address the Red Hill situation. So, you know, I'm just the figurehead, the real person behind what we've done on Red Hill, and everything we've done to protect our water quality for our community goes with Erwin and his team in the Water Quality Division. Thank you, Erwin, so much for your hard work and dedication.
Thank you know, Ernie, Mr. Law, and the board members, and all the colleagues that I work with. It's been a terrific journey, and I enjoyed every minute of it. But most of all, I really want to thank my wife, Allison, you know, for all the patience and understanding and encouragement she's given me over the years. I really appreciated that one. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, congratulations again, Erwin. All right, let's move to our next item here. This is adoption of resolution number 946/2022. This is for our 2022 Employee of the Year. No other right here in this room who has been helping us through all of our communications and transition here during the pandemic. Many transitions. He's no other than Mr. Stephen Nordstrom.
Stephen.
We do have a resolution for Stephen. It's 946/2022. May I have a motion, please, to approve?
So moved.
Second, Mr. Chair, it's not allowed.
Yep, thank you, members Sevchek and Anthony for making the motion and seconding respectively. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Okay, hearing none, the motion to adopt resolution 946/2022 naming Mr. Stephen Nordstrom as Employee of the Year is approved.
Yes, I appreciate it. Oh, thank you. Congratulations. Oh, yeah, thanks for all your help. Yes.
Weekend.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
So, thank you, Ernie. Appreciate it.
Okay, guys. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Next. Okay. Thank you.
Just a few words about
Yes, yes.
Stephen. He hasn't worked at the Board of Water Supply for 40 years. But in the few short years that Stephen has been here with us, I just gotta say, he's an important part of our communications team. And when we ramped up the water conservation program because of the Red Hill, which affected our supply that's available, Stephen helped step up to the plate and started to do tremendous things with that water conservation program, working with our conservation branch, Lorna Heller, to look at developing a large water user condominium outreach program, which you've actually worked with all the major property managers on the island
Yeah, we contacted the top 100
in the Honolulu.
in the Honolulu area. Correct.
And he's also working actively on water audits, even at outrigger hotels. Maybe Stephen, you could share a little bit about that.
Of course, yeah. So we've actually made some really good relationships with Outrigger and Lorna's team. We've went out to the Outrigger Reef. That was one of the hotels. We went to the Beachcomber. We're also did Outrigger Waikiki. We went to the various restaurants doing a basic water audit, just letting the restaurant and the hotels know ways that they can conserve water to reduce their usage. And I have to say, every single hotel that we've worked with, the various general managers have been terrific. And Marcus Krebs, actually the general manager of Outrigger Reef, is on our SAG board.
On our stakeholder advisory
Yeah.
group. So,
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
yeah, great job. And Stephen, thank you for also going on television to talk about water conservation. And that's been a great effort.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's a pleasure working here and work with some wonderful people. We have one of the best teams I've ever worked with. So
Thank you so much.
yeah, very well. Thank you.
Congratulations.
All right. We're so blessed to have such wonderful, team members. We have yet another one. This is for adoption of, moving on to the next item here is adoption of resolution number 947, 2022. This is for the 2022 Employee of the Year. We have, from what I understand from Manager Lau, attained a sufficient size where we are able to
Have two
Employee
of the years.
employees of the year. And this one, 947, goes to Miss Catherine Jean Hoffman as 2022 Employee of the Year. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
And here you go, Kathy.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Oh.
And then you want to take down your mask just for a little bit? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations. Just a couple minutes when he's got.
At the Board of Water Supply, we have, everybody working here at the Board of Water Supply has an important role in our organization and whatever the position is. And one of the reports today is going to be talking about our CIP program and our quarterly update given by Jason Takaki. And Catherine is the head of our procurement office. So everything that happens at the Board of Water Supply requires a procurement of construction contracts, design consultant services, goods and services. So I'll tell you, we would be lost without Catherine. And I am so glad that she's come back to the Board of Water Supply. This is the second time, I think.
Yes.
And first time I wasn't here to have the pleasure and honor of working with her, but this time I do, and she's amazing, especially during the fourth quarter or every year. Board members, you see how much activity happens in the fourth quarter. a lot of that activity is Kathy and her team actually going through the procurement process and dealing with the protests and other challenges. But we wouldn't be able to accomplish what we have without her leadership and hard work. I really appreciate it, and I'm just very honored to work with you, Kathy. Thank you. So I just do you want to say any words?
Well, thank you. Thank you for recognizing me. And it's actually not just me alone. It's my staff. I have a wonderful staff of Albert Mao, Brendan Sapula, Francis Hasebe, and Pua Mira. And it's all of us working together, not one person alone. And the support of Raylin Nakabayashi, my supervisor, and Ernie. We always push forward, and thank you for always supporting us.
Oh, yeah, it's, electronic procurement, the HEP system, use of digital signatures and Adobe Sign. We're moving into the digital age, and it's thanks to her leadership. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ernie. And it's also the divisions. I mean, I don't think that we really gave them a choice. With Ernie's blessings, we implemented changes, but they've all been very good, stepping up to the plate, rolling with the changes, and even the contractors and the community. So we appreciate the support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Thanks for coming back to the board. All right, I think I neglected to make that one official, and to actually get the motion, so do apologize for that. May I have a motion to approve resolution number 947/2022, naming Catherine Jean Hoffman, 2022 Employee of the Year. Okay,
Then I so move.
thank you. Soon, do I hear a second?
I second.
Mr. Chair.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. All right, the resolution number 947/2022, naming Catherine Jean Hoffman Employee of the Year for 2022 is approved. Congratulations. Next we have adoption of resolution number 948/2022. Adopting the 5-year Board of Water Supply Strategic Plan for fiscal years 2023 to 2027. Chair recognizes our Deputy Manager, Ellen Kitamura.
I'm sorry, Chair. Ellen was not able to make it today, and I know this is
It's
her
her baby.
crown jewel here.
Yeah.
I know that she takes a lot of pride in this effort, but on Ellen's behalf, I just want to thank the board members of the Permitted Interaction Group, Chair Andaya, Board Member Soon, and Board Member Anthony for actively participating in the strategic plan development process and for your input that has made I think the proposed plan here that was shared last month, something that we all can be proud of and work hard to live up to. So, Chair, rather than reading the report, I will just say the report speaks for itself. You have the report before you, and the presentation on the strategic plan was done last month. And I just want to thank the Permitted Interaction Group for your participation, and to the leadership team here at the Board of Water Supply. And of course, Ellen Kitamura, who's really helped to build and made this strategic planning process an integral part of our long-term planning here at the Board of Water Supply.
Right, I'd like to echo those comments, and I do want to express appreciation for Ellen and to Ernie and your entire team for making this happen. We couldn't have done it without participation from the department and your team as well. I believe all of the program managers participated, so thank you very much. This is an essential part of making sure that we stay on the right path.
Thank you, Chair.
With that, do we have any questions, from the,
I just wanted to add the hope, of course, is that this is a living document, that you guys have it on your desk and you know it's there and you keep in mind the values, continue to monitor and measure the accomplishments. And one issue came up today, the discussion around Red Hill that is reflected in some of the items that were added to the strategic plan having to do with our participation as a member of the wider community and increasing our role as appropriate. And, you know, yes, I think it's not appropriate for us to be a decision maker on a board that monitors us, but we should continue to be active participants, even if we're just in the audience, so that we know constantly what's going on. And that's called for in the new strategic plan, and I think that's a great example of how it's relevant to what we're doing.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you, Ray.
all right, and thanks, Ray, you were part of the, permitted interaction
fun.
group too, so thank you for your time and service on that, as well as, a board member, not like Anthony as well, who was, served on the, PIG. Any further, questions or comments? If hearing none, I'd like to, call for a motion to approve resolution number, resolution number 948, 2022, adopting the 5-year Board of Water Supply Strategic Plan for 2023 to 2027.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
I second.
All right, it's been moved, and seconded by members Sevchek and Soon respectively. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, roll call vote, please.
Board Member Ray Soon,
Aye.
Board Member Nalegu Anthony,
Aye.
Board Member Jay Kutai.
Aye.
Board Member Don Sevchek,
Aye.
Chair Brian Dayam.
Aye.
Chair motion passes with 5 ayes.
Thank you very much. Let the record so reflect. All right, we're going to move on to the next item here. Item number 6 requiring board action is to authorize a public hearing to consider a proposed amendment to the fiscal year 2023 capital improvement program budget of the Board of Water Supply. Chair recognizes Ms. Raylyn Nakabayashi.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members. Joy, if you could scroll down a little bit. So we're asking that the board authorize a public hearing prior to our next month's meeting, so September 26th at 2 p.m. to consider a resolution to amend the capital improvement program budget for this current fiscal year, which began on July 1st and ends on June 30th of 2023. And Joy, if you could just scroll to the next page. Within your board pack is just a draft of the notice of public hearing, which will be posted prior to the meeting, should the board authorize it. And just by way of background, or for some background, after the fiscal year 23 budget was adopted by this board in May, we were unable to award contracts on 6 projects that were programmed in our fiscal year 22 CIP. So because no contracts were awarded, no funds were encumbered, those funds lapsed at the end of last fiscal year. So after the budget was already adopted, we're pursuing this amendment to reprogram the projects that are ready to go. And additionally, after the budget was adopted in May, we found out that the Honolulu City Council actually allocated additional American Rescue Plan Act or fiscal recovery funds to the Board of Water Supply, in addition to what was already accounted for in the budget that you approved in May. So the second part to this amendment is to identify additional projects in our fiscal year 23 that may be funded with the ARPA monies. And finally, there are other non-substantive amendments with all those ins and outs. We're making changes, of course, to the construction cost index account, which is just a percentage factor of what construction projects are being proposed. And also the contract adjustments account. And that one is not a change in amount, but a change in source of funds to align with the contracts fundings that were the funding of the contracts when they were originally awarded that require change orders now. So thank you for considering hearing the amendment and allowing a public hearing to be held to pursue these changes.
Oh, thank you, Ms. Nakabayashi. Members, any questions? Okay, well, hearing none, I'd like to call for a motion to approve this public hearing, which will take place, I believe, next month?
Next month,
Next month at our September board
before the
meeting.
board meeting.
Yeah, I so move.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second, Mr. Chair.
Okay, moved and seconded by members Soon and Anthony respectively. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, Madam Secretary, roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Chair. Board Member Ray Soon,
Aye.
Board Member Nale Anthony.
Aye.
Board Member Jay Kutai,
Aye.
Board Member Don Stepchak,
Aye.
Chair Brian Daya.
Aye,
Chair, motion passes with 5 ayes.
thank you, let the record so reflect. All right, item number 7, requiring board action. This is amending the Board of Water Supply Special Expendable Fund, which we established via resolution number 555 back in 1990, and which accounts for customer deposits collected from the assessment of water system facilities charges and negotiated agreements. Chair recognizes Ms. Raylyn Nakabayashi.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members. So Joy, if you could scroll down a little bit to the resolution. So yes, as Chair mentioned, we did establish a special expendable fund in the 90s to collect our water system facilities charges and other fees from negotiated agreements. Can you scroll down a little bit more? Since its establishment, though, it was amended once in 2006 to allow for, I guess, the cost of debt service and defeasance of debt to be charged to the fund as well. And this amendment before you today, again, just, sorry, scroll down to this disbursement. Yep. To amend the disbursements paragraph of the original resolution to allow additional, I guess, disbursements still in the pursuit of water system expansion or improvements to the improvements to expand the water system, but makes the language, I guess, less restrictive after council with Corporation Council and what we have planned to do with the funds. We'll still pursue improvement expansion projects, but this will allow us to pay for costs related to that. And if you have any questions, though, I'm happy to answer.
Members, any questions? If not, I got a question. Raylyn, can you give us an example, like how this change, like what it might look like in an actual, example?
Sure. So originally the resolution just had, it was restricted. It said that the fund was established and its disbursements shall be to construct, essentially just construct water system improvements or expansion or acquire land to do that. It doesn't, I guess, account for like what we recognized in 2006. Should we issue debt from the fund that to pay for these projects, that there is cost associated with that debt and the defeasance of that debt. It also doesn't account for other contractual obligations that come out that may not be the construction itself. We may have let out a contract to construct a reservoir or a pipeline, but there may be other contractual obligations. If there are material escalations because of delay, change orders of that nature, we did a read of the reso, consulted with CORE, and thought that this language, all other costs arising under the resulting contracts would allow us the flexibility to spend rather than have to spend our operating funds for these contracts that were originally funded with special expendable funds.
Okay, so would that be the language, related engineering and design work and all other costs arising under the
Yes.
resulting contracts? That's the language there.
Yes.
Would-
Yes, and to date, we haven't had a change order come through that we couldn't pay, so we're trying to get ahead of that as we embark on, I guess, these larger expansion projects.
I see. And is there a current issue or situation that's requiring this, or is this just for planning purposes?
This is more for planning purposes. I don't have any current change orders waiting that we wouldn't be able to execute. It's just the original 1990s language was pretty specific to just the construction costs or just the land acquisition costs. But as you folks all know too, contracts, a lot of things can come up within a construction contract that is not just building.
Okay, no, I definitely understand changes occur, but is there a lot more changes now than previously?
So what we're trying to do is more projects using the special expendable fund. So this allows us to be able to broaden the appropriate costs that could be attributed using that fund. And we checked with CORE and they told us, it's pretty narrow right now. So the broadening of the resolution would help us.
Okay, so it's not like a sudden increase in change orders.
No, it's actually, we're now moving forward with more capacity expansion projects. A lot of the CIP has been focused on renewal and replacement projects.
Mm-hmm.
But as we build new large pipelines, new water tanks, seawater desalination plant, that'll be funded out of special expendable funds, a large new transmission main through Honolulu. We need this flexibility so that we don't have to use our revenue or our cash to basically supplement it.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thanks for the information. Members, do you folks have any other questions? Hearing none, I'd like to call for a motion to approve.
I so move, Chair. Jade.
Thank you, Jade. Second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, and seconded by members Butai and Sepchek respectively. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Chair. Board Member Ray Soon.
Aye.
Board Member Nodding Anthony.
Aye.
Board Member Jay Patai.
Aye.
Board Member Don Sepchak.
Aye.
Board Member, Chair Brian Daya.
All right,
Chair, motion passes with 5 ayes.
thank you. Let the record so reflect.
I realize this is after the fact. Can I ask a question, Raylene?
Sure.
This went through legal, so, because typically the action clause is in a therefore clause, and you have it tucked into the last whereas. I mean, it goes whereas therefore, I understand that, but it's not typical. I just wondered whether this went through legal and it's fine.
Yes, we did consult with legal on this. and I don't, Jeff is on the line. So we did talk to Jeff about it. And I do believe because the original reso on the therefore was the establishment of the fund. So the whereas is above really establishing the purpose and what the fund would be expending money for. So we were just worried about that, whereas about disbursements, limiting it to like just the hard costs of construction and land acquisition.
So I don't have a problem with that. That's not the issue. The issue is where the action is not in a therefore clause, it's in a whereas clause.
Maybe we can have Jeff.
Anyway, if you guys can just look at it again.
We'll
We
take
can take a
another-
look at it again. I think what we did was we tried to follow the previous form, the original 1995, and make it as close and consistent to that as possible.
I understand that, but if you go back to the last three resolutions that amended that same thing, each time when you amended it, you put it in a therefore clause at the bottom. Now therefore be it resolved that it's hereby amended to blank. It's hereby amended to blank. And what you did was this may be pulling hairs. I mean, it may be a small issue. I just kind of would suggest you can take a look at it.
Okay, will do.
Will do. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you. We'll move on then to items for information. I believe we did do a roll call vote on resolution number 5. I'm sorry, on that particular action item. So I'd like to return now to the update on our response to the potential impacts of the Red Hill fuel contamination. And I want to make sure, are we able to, do we have any testifiers?
I don't see any on my phone. Sorry.
I know we have a couple missed calls. Did we share, as member Anthony suggested, did we share the web, or is that, shall we?
Did we share the WebEx number? We did.
We did transfer over the phone to the WebEx number.
Okay. All right, if anybody's watching, we'd encourage you, if you'd like to testify, we do apologize for any technical difficulties. You are free to call in or to use the WebEx number to call in. Is the number, Mr. Nordstrom, the same number as?
If we can bring it back.
It's the 415-655-0001. It's this number right back.
Sure. Legalese.
I think you make that.
Style.
Yeah, style.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to just make this announcement, just in case there are people watching and you still want to testify. The number to call is 415 is the area code, 655-0001. Again, it's area code 415-655-0001. It is a US number. I'm not sure if there's any international callers, but it is a United States number. And the public is welcome to testify on any of our items. And this item here on the Red Hill fuel contamination will be a monthly item. So you're able to testify at our next board meeting as well. You can also write and other methods of testifying. For the testifiers that were able to testify today, let's if there is any follow-up from us, the department can follow up accordingly.
Yeah, we'll look into how we can communicate with them.
Yeah. All right then. If there's no one standing by, we're going to move on to item number 2 for information. This is the financial update for the quarter ending June 30th, 2022. Chair recognizes Mr. Joe Cooper.
Good afternoon. Board Chair and board members. This is the financial performance report for the period July 2021 to June 2022, or the fiscal year ending FY 22. Next slide, please. Our actual revenue was $252 million, which is about $3 million over our budgeted revenue of $249 million. Our operating costs are $201 million, which is $14 million less than our budgeted operating cost of $215 million. And our net revenue, our actual net revenue is $51 million, which is $14 million over our budgeted net revenue of $34 million. I like to mention that this is our result of our operations and maintenance budget. This is not our CIP budget. I believe that Jason Takaki will be presenting that a little bit later. And actual net revenue is one of the funds that goes toward contributing toward the what is called the PAYGO portion of our CIP budget. Next slide, please. To go into some of the major cost drivers of our operating and maintenance budget, our personnel costs were $41 million, which is $10 million less than budget. This is due to our recurring vacancies. Services and supplies were $52 million, which is about $7 million less than our budget. Repairs and miscellaneous expenses were $15 million, or $1 million below budget. Equipment was $4 million, $1 million below budget. And utilities was over budget. At $27 million, it's $4 million over budget. And this is something that it's not a surprise, and we'll be talking about it. I think it will come up a couple more in some of the other slides because energy costs are going up. Next slide, please. This is the more detail of the operating versus the actual budget that is prepared by the ESO Budget Office and reviewed by the various divisions who are available to address any questions that you have regarding their division's budget. And hearing none, next slide, please. This summarizes the different cost categories as a percentage of our total operating budget. Our largest category is material, supplies, and services, which represents 34% of our total operating budget, or $68 million. The next category is fixed charges, which represents 29% of our total operating budget, or about $58 million. Our third largest category is personnel services, representing 20% of our total operating budget, or $41 million. And finally, we have debt services, which represent $15 million, or about $31 million of our total budget. And yes, I guess I should mention equipment. I'm down at 2% of our operating budget. Next slide, please. This slide summarizes our operating costs compared to budget. And you can see on the far left, personnel costs are about, again, 20% under budget. Materials and supplies, the second from the left, is 10% under budget, which is about 14% less than last year. Equipment is in the middle, and it looks pretty close to budget, but it's actually 19% under budget. Debt service, moving toward the right, is 3% under budget, and fixed cost is 7% under budget. Next slide, please. We also, this summarizes our operating costs on both a monthly basis and a year-to-date basis. And year-to-date, our operating costs are 6.1% below budget. Over the past 5 years, our expenditures variances range from, yes, the low of about 6.16 to about 12% below budget. Our monthly expenditures average about $16.5 million a month. And let's see, the operating costs, let's see, the variances in May and June. Over on the right-hand side, you can see some somewhat significant variances in those months. Those are mainly due to timing differences. But if you were to combine those expenditures, they would average out to about the $16 million per month between the two of them. Next slide, please. Our final slide shows our revenue on a monthly and a year-to-date basis. Revenues are just a little bit over 1% over budget. And historically, our revenues track pretty close to budget. Let's see, the drop in revenue in June on the far right hand is due to two adjustments that we made. One was for our E&V relationship of about $2.3 million. And the other one was the drop in market value of our investments. As the Fed has raised interest rates, it has depressed some of the market value of our investments. However, since we hold our investments generally to maturity, those are unrealized losses, but they are still reflected in our financial statement as they occur. And that concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to take any comments or questions.
Members, any questions? All right, hearing none, my only comment is thank you, Joe, for the presentation. I think I have a good idea what the drivers are in terms of our financial performance. And there's not really any surprises.
Okay, thank you. Yes, we like there not to be surprises. The closer we work to budget, and I think, you know, over the years we have gotten better at both budgeting our expenses and our revenue. And yes, energy is the big elephant in the room.
Well, yeah, I did crunch the numbers, and my concern has always been about the excess. And it's I think the ratio, this ratio is better than it has been in the past, so.
We've tried to
Yeah.
close that gap.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, and I appreciate the encouragement.
Okay, thank
members,
you.
Yep, you're welcome. Members, any further questions? All right, hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Cooper. We're gonna move on to.
Thanks, Joe.
Item 3. This is the capital improvement program quarterly update date. Chair recognizes Mr. Jason Takaki.
Joy, are you sharing?
Oh, you can share. Do you want to share?
Yeah, no, I'll do it.
Okay.
Sorry, thank you.
Oh, do presentation. Okay, aloha Chair Andaya and board members. This is the quarterly report on the capital improvement program for all divisions and is for the quarter and fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022. In the fourth quarter, 27 design contracts were awarded for $19 million and 20 construction contracts were awarded for $68 million. There were no contract completions reported during the fourth quarter. In the bottom left-hand corner, the ongoing projects are tabulated. There are 252 ongoing design contracts and 169 ongoing construction contracts. Together, they total over $479 million in work in progress. Going back to the top table, the total encumbrances of $90.6 million represents 65.4% of the total project budget of $138.7 million. The execution shortfall for FY22 is attributed to two project categories. First, protests on solicitations for 6 pipeline projects, and this was mentioned by Raylin earlier. Those projects totaled $34 million, and protests were filed on the projects once they were advertised for bids. The bid protests could not be resolved prior to the end of the fiscal year, and the projects will be re-advertised. Second, more time was needed to complete the design, build, operate, maintain procurement process for the Kalailoa desalination facility. Additional funding is included in the current fiscal year, and work on the project is continuing. The project is being funded over consecutive fiscal years. And now the details on the contracts awards are here. And finally, this graph has been updated to include the FY22 fourth quarter. The current fiscal year shown in black trailed all previous fiscal years throughout the year. So that is the update on the FY22 CIP, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have on that.
Chair, I have a question. This is Jade.
Yeah.
You mentioned, so we're doing a design, build, finance, operate, maintain contract?
Design, build, operate, maintain, yes.
Yeah, just just curious because when Hart, I'm also on the board of Hart, but we squandered a lot of money and time on that particular initiative, and we had little to show for it, but I guess we're doing it much better. Because we were going to build the city center portion for Hart using that procurement method or that way of P3.
Hello?
Excuse me, everyone, I do think we have a testifier. I think that's the difficulty in giving out the WebEx. Yeah.
I'm here.
Yeah, ma'am, can you identify yourself, please?
My name is Stacy Harvey. I live off of Red Hill in AMR.
Okay, thank you. 2 minutes, please.
My family and I are still experiencing symptoms between December to June of 2022 when everything happened. My daughter, who is just almost 3, she had not used the water. She used it probably 2 or 3 times in April. We left the island for a little bit, came back in June, and ever since then she's losing a lot of hair. And I've taken her to the doctors twice already. But I know it's because she's using the water. When my oldest daughter showers and she coughs, I don't know if it's because of the water or if she has allergies. And I've taken a shower twice this week, and every single time I take a shower, I don't feel good. And when I went to the Just Well Law meeting last week, I'd overheard someone say once they changed the water heater, it helped a lot for people. That one person that begged the IPC to change the water heater, he said he had to fight and fight
but once they finally changed it, they had less of reactions. I also want to know if Board of Water received my report that I gave to DOH November 24th. I called them at 7:30 in the morning and I told them that I smelled fuel, and they transferred my call to a NAFAC officer. And I told them I told DOH, I said, how is this safe having fuel leak and the smell comes so close to our water system? And the response from DOH was, what do you mean? And to me, the way she said it, she knew exactly what I was talking about. I feel like she knew that the water was tainted. And I'm wondering if that was reported to you guys when I had told her that in May of 2021, my water had changed. I had told her that over the phone, and I'm wondering if you guys received that report.
Ma'am, what we want to do today is we want to take your testimony. We have heard and we're taking notes, and we're gonna check on, what you've brought up, and we will be in touch.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, do you have anything
Bye.
further?
Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for your time today, Stacy. Good luck to you and your family. All right, yeah, for the record, that was Stacy Harvey. She did try to call earlier. We provided the WebEx number, which she just testified. Okay, I'm sorry. So, Mr. Takaki and Board Member Butai, I think folks were having a discussion on the CIP budget.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you for your comments, Board Member Bukai. Barry Usagawa from Water Resources is heading up that design, build, operate, maintain procurement. So I'm sure Barry's on the line. He can be in touch with you to take advantage of the lessons learned from the ARC project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. I'd be interested in understanding a little bit more about that. We, as Jason said, we are in the procurement process and reviewing the submittals and having meetings and stuff, but it would be interesting to understand it better. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just curious because it was a big failure on our part. Like I said, we squandered time and money on studying, whether we could do the city center portion via DBFOM. So I was just kind of curious, what was the successful failure of what happened?
Yeah, Jade, we're still in the procurement process. We can talk to you later about that.
Good.
Thanks, Jade.
Thank you. Any other questions on the CIP? Otherwise, we can go on. Last quarter, I was asked about the average cost of installed pipe over the years. So this is a plot of the average awarded price per linear foot over the last 23 years. This confirms a general increase in installed costs over the years, but also illustrates how the price per foot can vary widely based on the individual projects in a given year. And this, to give more granularity, is the scatter plot of the prices per project per year. And you can see how individual projects can skew the annual average. Appropriately, I was also asked last time to provide an overview on how we estimate budgeted amounts in the annual CIP. And cost estimating is an occupation, as we know, and it's also an industry. Large contracting and consulting firms Maintain at least one person may be dedicated to the cost estimating, while larger firms may have a staff or a section. There are also local and national firms that specialize in cost consulting, as well as subscription services to provide up-to-date pricing data and forecasts. In response to the board's request, the capital project staff put together this brief overview on cost estimating, and the head of our design and plans review branch, Lester Fujikami, will share this information with the board. So Lester?
Afternoon, Board Chair, Andaya, and members of the board. As Jason mentioned, I'm Lester Fujikami, branch head of the Design and Plans Review branch. Okay, cost estimates is the process forecasting the construction costs based on the project scope of work. It's standard practice to create multiple estimates during the pre-design and design phases of a project. Okay, these become more accurate as the project's level of definition increases. Capital Projects Division uses cost estimates to determine a project's feasibility, the scope, and to allocate budgets. Our design consultants prepare the estimated engineer's estimates with input from our staff to ensure that a project meets scope requirements. Okay, so there's different types of construction cost estimates. Okay, the first is the order of magnitude estimate, which is done before the design starts. Okay, and is basically used to determine the overall project feasibility. And then there's a schematic design estimate, which is in line with the schematic design of the project. Then there's a design development estimate, which is prepared during the development phase of the project. Okay, and finally, there's a construction document estimate, which is based on the construction drawings as well as the specifications bid package. Okay, there are many factors that influence the construction costs of a project. Okay, one is the site location. Okay, the geographical soil data report, previous construction in the area, native animal species and plants, hazardous materials, the presence of historic or natural heritage sites are just a few things that can affect materials and labor requirements. Can also delay the issuance of permits and increase the time needed to complete the project. Similarly, the location of the construction site relative to economic centers can also be significant. Contractors may have to transport workers and materials for a long distance if the site is remote. Okay, time-related aspects can also affect costs significantly. The project schedule, as a compressed, labor-intensive schedule, will incur higher costs. Shorter project timelines, especially those with significant penalties for contractors' failure to complete the project on time, are also likely to have more expensive insurance. Variations in bid amounts, since contractors are busier at certain times of the year than at others. Okay, the size and complexity of the project are other major influences on cost estimates. Larger, more prestigious projects may attract larger size contractors, or there may simply be fewer firms capable of handling, a certain specific project. Okay, economic construction climate, post-pandemic recoveries, shortage of materials, fuel shortage, etc., can influence the construction costs. Okay, some other factors that influence the project cost could include whether the project is federally funded, a circumstance which may require additional paperwork and periodic reporting. Also, higher pricing of domestic materials may be required. Okay, the area might be culturally sensitive, which requires archaeological monitoring that slows production and increases costs. Okay, the area may have hazardous material contamination and work required to comply with environmental hazardous materials plans, slows production and increases costs. Okay, all cost estimates add at least 10% of the construction total to account for contingencies. Contingencies are allowances held in reserve for unexpected costs. Estimates are prepared using quantity takeoffs, vendor quotes, and equipment pricing. The estimates include direct labor costs and anticipated productivity adjustments to labor and equipment. Construction labor crew and equipment hours can be calculated from production rates contained in various reference documents or electronic databases published by RS Means, Mechanical Contractors Association, National Electrical Contractors Association, and Rental Rate Blue Book for construction equipment. As the design progresses through different completion stages, it is customary for the engineer to make assumptions to account for details that may not be evident from the documents. The following are some examples of assumptions that may be used in the development of an estimate. Okay, contractor performs the work during normal daylight hours, normally 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday in an 8-hour shift. No allowance have been made for additional shift work or weekend work. Contractor has complete access to lay down the materials for mobile equipment. Equipment rental rates are based on verifiable pricing from the local project area rental yards, Bluebook rates, or rates contained in the estimating database. Contractor markup is based on conventionally acceptable values that have been adjusted for project area economic factors. Okay, process equipment vendor training using vendors standard operating and maintenance materials is included in the purchase price of major equipment items where so stated in that quotation. Okay, bulk material quantities are based on manual quantity takeoffs. And also we're assuming that there is enough electrical power to feed the specified equipment. The local power company will supply power and transformers suitable for this facility. Okay, geotechnical source reports are prepared to prepare detailed information for us to use in the design and assumptions. Okay, next slide. Okay, an example of a pipeline project was asked for us to go over. This is our Lanikai Water System Improvements Part 2 project out in Kailua. Okay, the purpose scope of work for this project was to increase water service reliability and fire protection to all users in the Lanikai area. The work consists of furnishing all labor, tools, equipment, and materials to install, in accordance with the plans and specifications, approximately 1,400 linear feet of 16-inch water mains, approximately 1,800 linear feet of 8-inch water mains, and approximately 200 linear feet of 4-inch water mains along various streets in the Lanikai area. Also, approximately 200 linear feet of 6-inch water mains for fire hydrants and bypass cleanout installations, interconnections, and service connections and appurtenances. And also too, there was an inactivation of a cross-country main. Okay, next slide. Okay, the next two slides shows the project location and some considerations that need to be considered in the design and construction of the project. This graphic shows the various construction phases that the contractor is required to follow. This slide shows his phases 1, 2, and 3. Okay, as discussed in the previous slides, some of the considerations for this project was a traffic control, which is critical for this project due to it being a single route of access, which feeds into Lanikai. Okay, to work coordination with the city and county Department of Transportation Services, which had a project that was just adjacent to this project. Okay, work will be required on the bridge. Okay, the ocean is also adjacent to the work, and it required some best management plans. Okay, the area has historical archaeological significance requiring archaeological monitoring throughout the project. Okay, geotechnical report on the conditions of the soil was prepared. There's also businesses and a charter school in the area. Okay, and this area is also a tourist destination, which adds a lot of traffic to the Lanikai area. Okay, and this graphic shows the remaining phases of the project, which is phases 4 and 5, as well as phases 6 and 7. Okay, and the next slide, yes. So as we do all of our waterline projects, and as shown on the prior slides, the work is designed to be phased to ensure dependable and reliable water service to our customers. For this project, we had 7 phases of work. As also mentioned in the previous slides, coordination and collaboration with the city and county of Honolulu DTS was done due to the competing construction projects in the same area. So we had to complete phase 1 completely before DTS's project, their Color Hill Avenue and Kailua Road intersection improvements phase 2 project could start. So that added some cost to the project. Okay, this shows sample pages of the bid proposal on bid estimate that is done by our design consultant and project engineer team, which is put into the bid solicitation for the contractor to bid on. Okay, thank you for your time. Does anyone have any questions?
Members, any questions?
Yeah, Lester, you went through a long list of influences on construction costs, and that was very interesting, thank you. But just give me a feel for what's the most influential pieces, the 1 or 2 that really dictate the cost of the project.
That's a tough question. You know, it really depends on the project itself, because like this Lanikai project that we went through, you know, traffic was a major issue, and that really had a large impact on that project because it was a one-way feed into Lanikai. And so, you know, there was actually a lot of additional costs, you know, during construction to kind of work with the community to, you know, address their concerns about traffic. So it, you know, it really depends on the specific project.
That's a good example, though. I mean, 100%, what percentage would be attributable to traffic control for a project like Lanikai? Or maybe if you know the numbers along. Are we talking 20, 30, 40%, or are you talking 5, 6, 7%, where you don't see any of that on the project?
I'm not sure what the percentage. Jaden, you wanna help me out on this one?
Well, that's a tough one, yeah. See, and the difference too is that it's pieces of the Lanikai project. As an example. So there was one area where there's traffic because there's commercial businesses running. There is the bridge that Lester mentioned that was one way across. So this really slowed the contractor's progress. So in an area like that, maybe 20, 25% increase in cost. Other areas, just because they were so tight, in Lanikai was very difficult as well, but not as difficult, so maybe 10%. So yeah, all this needs to be taken into account by the engineers.
Okay. Thank you, Jason.
Yes.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, we've been, I guess, in a high inflation environment and, fluctuations in material prices. Have we had change orders from, from our contractors because of the, maybe some materials or it's short supply or whatnot?
We've seen higher bids, no question. There's not much in our general terms and conditions that will allow for after the fact increases in bid costs.
So the general doesn't allow us to, allow the contractor to request a change order if the prices, if there's a big jump on prices?
No, it doesn't. And yeah, to change the price that you bid after the fact, I don't know if that would be fair to everyone. Now, of course, if it can be documented that there was an increase and there's good reason for that, I'm sure we could consider. We haven't had claims though of increase in costs like that.
But you're saying that our contract doesn't allow for price adjustment after they submitted the bid?
That's right, it doesn't.
Okay.
Does DOT?
No, I don't think so, but I think I've seen some others. I mean, I think I think it allows for certain contracts to, if there's in short supply, like cement and steel, they can submit a written, I think it's a written request for price adjustment.
Yeah,
So
well,
I was just curious on that you said the contract doesn't allow for price adjustment.
Yeah, we've had inquiries, but no real claims.
Jason, as we ratchet up to 21 miles, 2100, as we ratchet up the amount of replacement in pipes, we were just kind of asking ourselves, is there a way to save money on those projects just because of the size? Or just because of the volume of work that was going to be apparent. I don't know if you guys constantly give thought to that, and what ideas might have been kicked around.
Well, the answer to your question is yes. It is something we're talking about, thinking about. Yeah, with the prices that keep coming up, and there's so much uncertainty related to project delivery and product delivery that, yeah, we really are wondering what is the best way to do this. Unfortunately, the water main replacement the materials are very expensive and come from the mainland. They need to be shipped in. I think the other thing to consider is, like Lester mentioned, if there's federal funds and American iron and steel requirements, those will increase our costs as well.
Ray, we're looking at different options because one of the things that's come up from the construction community is they want to be able, some of these items take a long time to arrive, and they're also subject to cost escalations, to see if they can advance order and get paid for bringing the material to the islands and being responsible to store the advance ordering material. So we're taking a serious look at that.
Okay.
But
that's the kind of thing you guys want.
Yeah, because everybody's experiencing this, supply chain disruptions, escalating cost increases, like inflation, basically. And how do we can't address everything because we don't have an unlimited source of funds.
Sure.
But how do we achieve some degree of balance by doing things that we can provide some flexibility in, like advanced ordering materials, I think is a prime opportunity here.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Jason and Lester. Jason, I'm sorry, Chair, I'm not running the meeting, but Jason, I just wanted to, going back to the graph about the cost per linear foot of pipeline over time from like 1991 to the present. Did you do maybe the previous graph?
Previous one.
Yeah. Go back one more, right there. Did you do a adjustment so that everything is in today's dollars? Because you have comparison of dollars as it was valued back in 1999 versus dollars in 2021 dollars. Did you try to normalize it to today's dollars and adjust the price?
That's a good point. No, we did not.
So this reflects.
These are bid. This is the prices as bid.
Came in 1999, so 1999 dollars compared to what the dollars are in 2021. And you, maybe we can do a follow-up on this graph to normalize it so it all represents $22 as an example.
Okay.
Thank you. I just wanted to be sure to point that out to the board because I remember way back when I could go to Leeward Drive in Waipahu, I could get a hamburger for 25 cents or 50 cents at the time. I think it was 50 cents.
You don't look that old.
I'm that old. But today, you can get a hamburger for less than maybe $5 or more. So it changes in the relative value of a dollar.
Right. Yeah, we can look at that. I think our point here was that to look at average cost per linear foot doesn't have a lot of reality. As Lester mentioned, is very detailed estimating and also bidding on the
I
project.
understand the fine nuances, but I think the general trend is useful in that. So if you could normalize it to be all in $22, that'll be at least useful, I think, in that respect. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
I've got a couple of questions. So first of all, I do want to thank Jason and Lester putting this presentation together. I know that it was a lot of work, probably trying to get the price per linear square foot over that time period, as well as trying to put together all the factors of what influences construction costs. So thanks for doing that.
Good work. Thank you.
I do want to follow up on some of the Ray's points and to some extent Jade's. And we talk about costs moving forward, especially as we ramp up. And I know it's a constant trying to think about ways where we can be more efficient. I'm wondering if there's been feedback from the community, the contractors and suppliers. And I think there has been, and I can talk offline, I think maybe with Ernie on that, but I just kind of wanted to bring that up. Because I think moving forward, if we want to reach our goals, it's gonna take cooperation from all sides. I mean, if we've got this issue of supply chain disruptions, which is making it difficult, for example, for contractors to meet their time deadlines under the contract, I think that those are some of the things that we can take a look at to see how we can be, better, maybe that we can more efficiently achieve our goals. And I'll follow up with that later. And then the other thing I wanted to ask about is the budget execution by quarter. So if we can pull that slide up. This is the cumulative percent budget execution by quarter? Very nice. So I'm just looking at, I just want to understand, so for 2022, does, and I'm sorry if this was mentioned in the presentation, but the last quarter of 2022, I guess the numbers just aren't in yet, or is this what was for April, June? Was this the one that we are gonna defer to the next fiscal year?
The numbers shown there, I think, are the numbers that were actually awarded. So in the fourth quarter, and maybe Jason, you can explain this to the board members.
Yeah, it is the budget execution percentage for the quarter. So at the end, and it's cumulative. So by the time we came to the end of the fourth quarter, we had executed 65% of the project budget.
If you had a chance to execute those 6 that were moved into the next year, how high up would it have gone, from 65 to what?
If those pipeline projects had come in at their budgeted amount, it would have added 30 million to this 90 million, so it'd be 120 over 138.
Okay.
Good. And the reason why we're moving it again is because of the bid protest.
That's right.
Came at a time where we couldn't reasonably achieve awarding without a protest that suspends the action until by the deadline that we needed for the close of the fiscal year. For the Board of Water Supply, that's June 15th. The city, because we work with city DHR, Board of Budget and Fiscal Services, their deadline is the end of June, but they set a deadline of June 15th for us.
Okay, that's all the questions I have. Thank you very much again for the information.
Thank you. One thing I would like to say, we had Employee of the Year, Catherine Jean Hoffman, head of our procurement office. So if you look at this graph, the first 3 quarters, not much activity, and then everything happened in the fourth quarter. That really is impacting Catherine's, our procurement office, but also the capital project staff worked very hard during that fourth quarter. If we came in with the additional 6 pipeline jobs, we would have been, 80–90% execution for the year, but all of it occurring, almost all of it in the fourth quarter, which is something we still struggle with. I'll just be very frank with you on how to get the first 3 quarters activities up to a higher level, especially in construction advertisements.
Okay, thank you.
I totally agree with
you. Yeah.
All right, members, if there's no other questions, I'm going to move on to the next item, which is the water main repair report for July 2022. Chair recognizes Mr. Barry.
That's a groundwater update on groundwater levels.
I'm sorry.
Number 4.
Status update of groundwater levels and all indexation. Chair recognizes Mr. Barry Usagao.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Yeah, for the month of for July, we have 4 index stations in low groundwater condition. Wailua's in caution, Kamaki, Punalui are in alert. The monthly production is 144 million gallons per day. In terms of rainfall, 93% for July. And the 5-month moving average is 72%. The National Weather Service is forecasting below normal rainfall through at least November, but could be another a dry winter. Hopefully not, but we'll continue to monitor the situation. Most of the index well head levels are stable, except for those that are mentioned, in particular Kamaki and Punalui. As they start to approach, they fall further into the alert towards critical, we've increased the frequency of our monitoring to weekly instead of monthly for those 2 particular index wells. And in this report, that it has recovered a little bit by about a tenth to 2/10 of a foot for Kaimuki and Honolulu. But we'll continue to monitor that weekly until we as long as they're in that kind of level. Yeah, so that's basically the report. Available for any questions that you may have.
Barry, can you go to the very bottom? I'm sorry, this is Ernie. I just wanted to point this out to the board members. Board members, if you look at the monthly production island-wide, maybe Barry can explain where we are for 2022 as compared to the 5-year monthly average.
Yeah, it's under the the monthly for 22 is in green. We're under the 5-year monthly average and below the pumpage for the same time last year. So I guess the conservation messaging is working, at least for Honolulu. So that may be tied to some of the rainfall as well.
But this is an island-wide production. So I think it's I want to recognize all our customers for their cooperation, their kokua in helping to conserve our precious water resources. So I think there more and more of them are starting to heed the call. And yes, rainfall is a big factor too, but I also want to say mahalo to our customers for water conservation.
And mahalo to the department for pushing conservation. And I know we did a lot of efforts for that. And May, June, July have been trending
below the 5-year monthly average.
And let's hope we can continue that.
And thank you to our employee of the year, Stephen Nordstrom, too, and also the communications team and the water conservation team over in Water Resources for their efforts.
All right, members, any questions?
Hello, Chair, just one question for Barry.
Yeah.
Barry, can you just talk a little bit about, so you're keeping a close eye on Honolulu. Can you talk a little bit about what happens if it goes into critical and how else you can make sure there's enough water for the windward side?
Yeah, Joy, if you could scroll up a bit to Honolulu, please. Honolulu provides about a third of the water supply for the windward. So you can see the head levels are approaching critical at 14.36. Critical is 14. We don't want it to get to critical. At that point, we start to have to look at chlorides to see if what the chlorides are doing. So it's important to utilize other sources. In this time frame, we had the big main break in Kahana, and I think this was taken before the main break, so we stopped pumping for about a week in Honolulu, and the heads went back up a little bit. But yeah, we could start to see rising chlorides. So if you scroll, I think up, should go up one to Waihe. Oh, down, sorry, the other way. Waihe is the other source in windward, so this provides the other third. The head levels here are higher. So if we start to approach critical at Honolulu, we'll need to draw more from Waihe and pull back from Honolulu. So that's sort of the idea, and of course conservation messaging around that. But it's been pretty dry in windward since I lived there. It's really rainfall dependent, but that's why we asked staff to do weekly head levels there, so we get a more real-time head level reading, so we can inform our pump operations.
Thanks so much, Barry. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
any further questions? Okay, hearing none, let's move on to, the final item. Today is the water main repair report for July 2022. Chair recognizes Mr. Jason Nikaido.
Hey, good afternoon, Chair and board members. This is the water main repair report for July. In July, we had 34 main breaks, which is comparable to previous years. Next slide. Here's the list of the 34 main breaks, and here you see a couple of the big ones that you've seen in last board meeting, the Pu'uloa and the Punalu breaks. Next slide. And for leak detection, our leak detection team just added 1 employee. So now we have 3 out of the 4 positions filled. And last month, they surveyed 37 points of interest and found 82 leaks. So they're off to a good start for this fiscal year. That concludes my report. Are there any questions?
Members, any questions? Okay, hearing none, thank you very much, Jason, for the report. Before we adjourn today, I'd like to make one correction to the record. This is on a resolution that we had passed earlier.
Item 7.
Action item number 7. This is to amend the Board of Water Supply Special Expendable Fund established via resolution. I want to note that the resolution number was incorrect. The resolution number should read 585 or 585 instead of 555. This was the resolution that was passed in 1990. That resolution number was 585 and not 555. Just for the record. I do believe there are also some amendments here along Ray's suggestions. With the paragraph, it's going to read, therefore, the second recital of resolution number 555, 1990 is hereby amended and restated in its entirety as, and that's where the language would be edited.
Chair,
That works with it legal.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, we'll double check.
Okay. Okay, there being no further business before the board.
Can I just add one thing? You know, like, we look at a lot of numbers and sometimes we get blurred over. It's really helpful. I appreciate that your staff puts in so much time to gather the data and to stay on it, and because it helps us a lot. And we're not looking at things as individuals, but rather we're looking at trends, which are more relevant. And it's a product of the hard work of your staff. So thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, the Capital Projects Division pulling 1991 to 2021 pipeline costs.
Here's the work that Barry's people do every month over and over again. We really appreciate it.
What you don't see board member soon is that the field work they have to put in to collect this data. And our hydro-geo branch is working hard to do that. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, just want to echo the sentiment of Ray as well. This is really helpful when we ask for information and you folks can come back at the next meeting and lay it all out. It gives us just so much more depth of understanding of what you folks are going through. So really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So thank you for those comments. Certainly echo it for myself as well.
I move to adjourn.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Good.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor say aye.
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 Can you oppose say nay?
See you
All right.
guys.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Great to see you folks. Take care.
Aloha.
Thanks, Board Water Supply team.